Awesome. Looks like we have a good group here today. Thanks for your patience. Can everyone hear me all right? Now I see everyone is muted, but you don't have to be. It's okay. I think we have a small enough group. What we did last time that I thought went really well is introductions. And you can share each other's email addresses in the chat if you would like to meet other Fishbowl users. And this is a common question I get from people a lot is who else does what I do and has the problems that I have and is using Fishbowl. So I've been doing this for about, I don't know, 17, 18 years. And as you know, I've worked with a lot of companies, hundreds of Fishbowl customers. And whenever I meet somebody, I think, oh yeah, I've worked with another company that kind of does something similar to you. And no one, I swear, I would say my mother's great, but she doesn't have a great. She's alive and well. I swear that no one does the same thing. No one does the same thing. I swear to you, no one does. And it's kind of funny. Everyone thinks that there's another company out there that does exactly what we do, and I don't think there is. And I think the reason you're successful in your business is because no one else does what you do. That's important. To be different than everyone else. That's what brings success. If your company was like everyone else's company, then you may not have the success that you have. You're just another company. Why don't we start with the bravest and just make short introductions? Some good things that introduce, I think it's good to tell about your company and maybe your role in the company. So say, what does your company sell? What does your company do? What size is your company? I think that's relevant too. Like how many employees? What's your annual revenue? How big's your warehouse? How many warehouses do you have? Because I think that helps us relate. Oh, they're much larger than me, or they're much smaller than me. Oh, this person has a different role or the same role. And I think it's really interesting to hear what everyone does. So let's see, I'm just going to go in order of how it's on my screen here in Zoom. And Jeff is like right next to me. Jeff, how about you introduce yourself to the group?
Hi, I'm Jeff Wozniak. I'm the CFO of the Meadows Group. We're about a $40 million chemical trading company based out through the United States, Mexico, and Europe. And we're currently in the implementation process of Fishbowl. And like you said, we all are unique, and we're just trying to see if everybody else is having the same challenges that we are, because you're looking for normalcy. The goal of system implementations is not to bastardize the system, but to have the system match your processes or make it convey. We're trying to see if people who might have some of the same challenges already have the solution.
Absolutely. I see a Marianne
Teague. I actually work with Jeff Wozniak, Melissa Reed, and Jennifer here. We're all from the Meadows Group. And so we're all very, very much in the implementation period of figuring out Fishbowl. And so I handle the logistics for the company. And so I'm just curious how it all feeds in and, how I can make it easier on my team. So
awesome.
Yeah, interested to see what you guys have, good tips y'all have for us.
Yeah. After we get through the introduction phase of the meeting, I'm anxious to talk about implementation and best practices and get some good questions answered. So thank you. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Justin, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure, my name's Justin Ross. Like Lance had mentioned, I joined the December webinar. It was both useful and I guess it's good, if not for any reason, to get to ask some questions, but just listen to maybe some other experiences and maybe problems that people are having, kind of as maybe an early detection thing, or it kind of spurs some thought in terms of maybe best practice. Am I using this product the right way? Is there maybe another way to use it? So I certainly found that useful. Our company is quite a bit smaller. We're right around $15-16 million. We manufacture, or I should say, it's not really primary manufacturing, but it is assembly and conversion on some industrial filtration products. And we do have 2 warehouses. They're probably about a quarter mile apart from each other. And one of those warehouses specializes in converting product, and then the other warehouse is actually the assembly of the product. So that is next, Nano.
Awesome. Welcome. Good to have you back. Laura, Did you see the field behind Laura there? It's a field of lavender, and that might give you a clue as to what she does. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, Laura?
Thanks, Lance. I am general manager of Purple Pastures Lavender Farm. We are a very small business doing a very large wholesale lavender product piece of things. As general manager, it's kind of a fancy way of saying I have my hands in every bit of the business. I do both financials and oversee operations, and that's the Fishbowl QuickBooks connection. So I'm basically it for our resources. You know, when it comes to Fishbowl and implementing it, I've done some work with Lance on, you know, when we first implemented Fishbowl, and he was most helpful, and the resources available through, you know, what you offer, Lance, has gotten me this far.
Thank you. Thank you. And Laura manufactures lavender sachets, right? And
Yes.
wholesale
Our
distributor of
Yeah, our signature product is a lavender dryer sachet, very environmentally friendly alternative to dryer sheets. And we're selling on a national level with several customers, a lot of regional business around the country, and then the mom and pops who have supported us for the 20 plus years we've been doing this.
Carla Reeling. Tell us about yourself and your company.
I'm here with Liz. We are a part of MTRSR. Liz is the purchasing manager, and I'm the COO here. We are in our third year of Fishbowl, I think, 2022. Mid 2022. So we have had a lot of struggles with QuickBooks and Fishbowl. I think we're finally in a good place, but always want to learn more. Lance, your videos are amazing. They're definitely our go-to.
Awesome.
And
good. I
we
tried.
recently opened a second location. So it's learning a little bit more about that is becoming quite the ordeal, but I think we got it down now. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit. Oh, and we do automotive. So we pick, pack, and ship. We use Fishbowl Advanced. Recently started touching a little bit with Fishbowl Anywhere because we do have remote salespeople that remote into Fishbowl. I think we're about 20 for MTRSR, and then our sister company between the two of us is 72, but they don't use Fishbowl. So it's about 10 or 13 users here that have Fishbowl.
Well, welcome. I'm glad the videos were helpful. And let's do Andrew. Let's have Andrew and then Brad. How does that sound?
My name's Andrew. I work for a company called AquaTree Global, and we're a company that developed an in-home hydroponics growing system. Lettuces, microgreens, peppers, tomatoes, grow in your house and grow them pesticide-free. We've been using Fishbowl for 3 years. We started it up without someone from accounting, and we've made a lot of mistakes in our setup because we didn't really prepare for QuickBooks. We do online sales through our online marketplace, but we also do direct sales. I'm really looking for someone who's got experience with some kind of really good POS system that works well with Fishbowl. The Fishbowl team does not have good options for us
For point of sale?
for point of sale.
Point of sale, yeah.
But we have 5 people in our company. We just started selling last year.
How many cash registers do you have?
None. We're just using our handheld phones with Zettel. PayPal Zettel,
Okay.
but it doesn't link to Fishbowl, which makes it a disaster for handling all of our inventory management.
We'll have to come back to that. Good to
Thank
have
you.
you. Glad you can make it. You want to go, Brad?
Brad Porterfield with Severident. We are in year 2 of our Fishbowl implementation, and we started as a dental GPO and then have sort of evolved and morphed into reseller. So we've got some products that we keep on hand, some products that we drop ship with a variety of partners. I think probably our biggest stressor right now is tax issues. If anybody else is dealing with that, raise a hand, give some noise. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of us. We've got probably 7 users, currently 1 warehouse, 1 location. That's probably the gist of it.
Well, welcome. Who would like to go first with a question? Let's take questions.
We have WooCommerce on our website for handling our e-commerce. We've used PayPal for payments and tried to use their Zettel program, does point of sale, to work through WooCommerce and then into Fishbowl, because once WooCommerce gets an order, it can integrate straight into Fishbowl and create all the orders and process cleanly through. But we could not get them to integrate, and Zettel wouldn't work with us. WooCommerce wouldn't work with us, and now I'm trying to work with Fishbowl Solutions, and Fishbowl Checkout will not work with Avalara tax, which is what we're paying for. And I was going to talk to Brad about Avalara. I really love Avalara as far as a tax group, but I don't have a solution that works for us that allows me to take and process an order, get it taxed properly, get it recorded properly, and then take care of my inventory. And Fishbowl doesn't help.
Yeah, that is a doozy. You're dealing with limitations from like 3 different software programs, trying to get them to work together. And yeah, so a little bit of background with Fishbowl. It first started out about 20 years ago, helping a company that does installs playgrounds. That's the inception of Fishbowl. And they added the checkout feature, maybe about 10 years ago. And it's mainly for wholesale distributors that do a little bit of POS at the front of their shop. Like they've got a warehouse in the back, but a little bit of a storefront out front. And the fact that they don't have a cash register closing feature sort of tells you that that's not really their focus. Strong POS counter sales is not really Fishbowl's main focus. It's just like there for those that need it in addition to wholesale distribution, manufacturing, and e-commerce, right? So yeah, if you have a strong presence or a strong need for POS counter sales, you're on the right track to find something other than Fishbowl. This is plug into Fishbowl. I'm not saying, jump ship, everyone jump ship. I'm not saying that because I don't know enough about your company. You might need some of the other features of Fishbowl. It has strong manufacturing. It has strong warehouse management, super robust in those 2 areas, and you might need those. POS is a tough one, especially since QuickBooks went away from QuickBooks POS. When they kind of started going away from that, I think people started scrambling mostly towards Shopify, and I think Lightspeed was the other one, and Square was another one. The one that you mentioned, Andrew, I've never heard of. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, but I've personally never heard of it.
We're dreading that we didn't go with Shopify.
And that was another thought I thought is, okay, how married are you to WooCommerce? Like how deep into WooCommerce?
We're not, but we're just deep enough for it. We're 4 people and self-funded, and we just don't have the money to redo our website again.
No, yeah, that's boy, you just slapped me with a doozy right out front, didn't you? That is a tough one.
I just had a question, Andrew, for you on that. You'd mentioned WooCommerce. We have that plugin as well enabled. We really don't use it. We do have a proprietary website where people can actually purchase goods online. But I did wonder, when you talk about WooCommerce, have you also talked with Fishbowl at all about their sellware option? And would that be any help to you as it relates to your website? I know the point of sale thing is it's not going to help with that, but strictly as it relates to your website, we've just launched a project to look at sellware and some of the features to both do integration with just general e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Walmart.com, but also plug in our website to that. We do have WooCommerce, and for a number of years, we kind of more or less turned it off just because it was creating some noise that we didn't want to have to deal with. But I just wondered whether that was an option that maybe you'd looked at or talked to Fishbowl about the sellware.
I'd never even heard of it, so I'm just looking at it now.
And we're really, really early days with it. So I guess when you'd mentioned WooCommerce and some of the issues that you were having, I was like, oh gosh, I hope we're not headed down the wrong path here.
How many point of sale transactions do you guys do on an average day, or a high and low, Andrew?
So right now we're just starting out with our retail. So I'm the one trying to set it up. So we're not doing anything right now. We've made it work for a few trade shows and a few sales, but we're looking at going much bigger really fast with a sales team. So I want to make sure that I have a robust process for them, and I don't.
So we don't know what the volume is going to be like yet.
No.
How many transactions they're going to need to transact.
I'm hoping hundreds.
But I think you said the main problem you had with Fishbowl checkout wasn't that it couldn't manage.
They don't support it.
They don't support volume. It's not working well with Avalara.
Avalara. So they won't support checkout anymore because it doesn't know, most of their clients don't use it.
Yeah.
They're not willing to invest in making and getting Avalara to work with it. And that would be the only issue that I have with it, is I can't do my taxes.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd say is, what about Shopify? But you're in pretty deep with WooCommerce.
We are.
And Fishbowl does have a WooCommerce integration, but getting someone to customize that integration, usually what I found means asking them to rebuild it. Maybe we could do a little bit of digging to find out who made the WooCommerce integration. I don't know if you know this, but you know all the plugins. Plugin and integration is the same thing, right? So all the plugins that Fishbowl sells in their plugin store within their website may or may not have been developed by Fishbowl developers. Some of them were developed by third-party partnerships that Fishbowl has made with other developing companies, right? And so sometimes what we can do is find out who developed the Fishbowl WooCommerce, go direct to them and say, hey, can you edit this WooCommerce integration? Fishbowl might not do it themselves, but they might refer us to who did build it. And if we get to the source of the code, the actual developer that developed the code, it's a lot easier for them to tweak or enhance. If we go to a different developer, then they may or may not have access to that code. And they may have to just start from the beginning. A shopping cart integration built from the ground up could cost anywhere between 5 to 10 grand. Usually is what I see. And that's why I kind of asked, well, what's the volume like? How much money is being processed? That might tell us what the ROI is. And so that's kind of my train of thought for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Okay, well, not sure how helpful that was, but let's go to another question. Who else has got something? Anybody want to raise their hand?
I do have one.
All right,
and hopefully it's a pretty easy one. I know there's a couple of accounting, and I think Jeff had mentioned he was a CFO. My question's related to standard and average cost and cost roles. Being a manufacturing company, it's kind of pretty common practice, and probably all accountants would say probably all business should do it anyway. Common practice to roll those costs every year or biannually. Late last year, we switched our Fishbowl over from average cost to standard cost. There was a couple drivers for that, so probably don't really need to go into that detail, but anticipating a cost roll probably on the annual basis, looking for an easy way to actually roll those costs. Fishbowl obviously has import capabilities where you can look more or less at average cost and match that with what your current standard cost is and use that as a cost roll, but it is somewhat a little maybe labor intensive. So I just wondered if there was, in anyone's experience, an easier way to do that. When working on standard, it is just fixed. So some of our experience has been running a costed bill of material report and then updating standard that way. But with thousands of parts, that becomes a fairly laborious task.
Yeah, there's no small questions on today's web.
Actually, I think I should be able to help with that. So,
See, Liz, yeah.
You can do, so how we did it for our recent price upping was we did an export of the bill. It's either the bill of materials or the bill of materials details. And then you have to get somebody who's really good with Excel because they have to do like several if statements to pull all the right costs and compound them correctly. And then you can just re-upload that as your standard cost. But they have to be able to look at, because I don't know if you've looked at the bill of materials export, but it has a line that tells you whether it's a like finished product or a raw product. And you have to, I forget how you do it in Excel, but there's a way to combine everything between the two times that it says finished product and have it auto sum that. And so you can do that and then just look up your finished products into your upload for your standard. That's how we did it.
Okay.
Did that make any sense?
I think so. I can kind of take a look around and see. I mean, we've done a lot of work outside of the system in Excel for a lot of different functions, using lookup tables and if statements and some data validation stuff for some other purposes. So it maybe sounds like that's a path. Thank you.
Do you have someone on your staff, Justin, that is an Excel whiz?
It's typically myself, which I would not consider myself an Excel whiz, myself or one of our application engineers.
I can't help but wonder if it could be resolved with a custom report as well. Going back to what we were thinking with Andrew and the ROI and how much money and time is it worth spending on a certain area, all depends on how much value you get out of it. And I kind of think about it the same with you, is how often are you needing to update the standard cost? The more often you need to update the standard cost, the less appealing Liz's recommendation looks, but the less often you have to update the standard cost, the more appealing her recommendation. You know, it requires manual work, but if you're doing it often enough, it might make sense to spend, I don't know, a few or several $100s on a custom report where Kendra could write a query to query and automatically sum up each finished good. You know, this is not the first time I've heard this. And so if someone is willing to pay for something like that, I would be happy to post it on in our Brandow Common folder in Google that I share with everyone, all the cool tools that we build that I think are a good common use. Because yeah, I hear this all the time. I hear this all the time. Say, well, we want to know the cost of all the finished goods, the estimated cost, and you have to sum up all the components, all the raw materials of each bill of material to get that.
Does anyone at your company know SQL?
Yes, actually, the application engineer that I've mentioned, he probably has some experience with SQL and can probably help out there. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look around in the data, like under reporting, the data tab, you can program your own report using SQL, and it would be probably pretty straightforward for him to go in there and look at the BOM item tab and then join that to your part cost and sum it.
Okay.
So if he's adept with SQL, I think that's probably what I'll do. I've taught myself SQL for this reason, and I think that's probably what I'll do next time that we have to do it, just so that I don't have to go through the whole complicated Excel thing. So knowing SQL is definitely a big benefit if you're doing a lot in Fishbowl.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks.
Well, that conversation was super valuable. Thank you, Liz. I'm glad we're doing this. I love the community. Yeah, this is why we wanted to do this. This is awesome.
Liz, when you mention SQL building reports, this is Jennifer from TMG. We're still new in the implementation phases, so we're still learning a lot. On the reporting side, it seems like we're having to go either to the reports team to write reports or outside party. And I like writing my own reports. So you're saying as long as I know SQL, I could write my own reports in Fishbowl?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually looking at our reports page right now because I made myself a bunch of reports for reordering, and I have made us 99 reports so that I can just look up, like, for example, it shows me all of my reorder points and current stock levels, or I have one that shows all of our, just compiles all of our customer emails and what customer groups they're in. You can do all kinds of different things with SQL. You just have to make sure that your admin gives you access to view and edit the data. You should be able to, if you know SQL, you should be able to do pretty much whatever you want. There are some things where if you try to do too much, it will overwhelm your Fishbowl, or at least it overwhelms my Fishbowl. If I try to like get it to run all of the sales history ever for all of my products from one of my vendors that has 100 products, it takes a while or it crashes it.
Okay.
But if you do something more reasonable, it does take some trial and error, but I think most of my trial and error comes from the fact that I was teaching myself SQL for this reason. So once you get the hang of like joining the tables properly and everything, you can really do a lot with SQL, and you can make your own reports. They're not as pretty as the ones that you pay for, but they are substantially cheaper.
Okay. Now that sounds good. That's what I figure I would have to do. I'll just spend years since I touch SQL, so I'll just have to do a refresher.
Yeah, I can drop my email in the chat in case anybody has follow-up questions about that.
I appreciate that.
So I am sharing my screen right now just to show and display what Liz is talking about. She's talking about the data screen right here. And it's not an SQL builder, but we've got a list of tables, and if you click on the table, it'll show you all the fields. Yeah, if you know SQL, you can build your own query. And like she said, it is cheaper to have an SQL report rather than a custom report. So this is another thing that we offer. Our report writer, Kendra, can do as well. We do this a lot as well, is just create a simple query, and those are super cheap. If you want to learn how to build custom reports like these here, these are made by Jaspersoft or built in Jaspersoft iReports. And my colleague Israel Lopez. Some of you may have heard of him. He's got some good YouTube content that focuses on report writing. So he's been around as long as I have in the Fishbowl world, except he looks at things from a programmer's perspective, as I look at things from a business and workflow perspective. So we kind of complement each other. So yeah, he's a great resource as well if you'd like iReport training. Our report writer also offers iReport training, but only in the evenings. She actually works full-time during the day and just does custom reports in the evenings part-time for us because we don't get a ton of work for custom report writing. Yeah, I haven't done SQL reports for a long time. Kind of fun.
That's one thing we're finding out, $1,500 for a custom report, that's a little bit of obscene pricing. That's probably half the reason why you don't get a lot of custom report requirements.
Yeah, and if your company's big enough, like Liz asked Justin, hey, do you have a SQL guy on your staff? Some larger companies have someone that you can just say, hey, learn this and check out these videos that Israel Lopez posts online. And once you connect iReports to Fishbowl, it has more of a SQL builder, the drag and drop type of report. Also has Java. So if you know a little bit of Java, you can really make the report sing and dance. That's one good thing about Fishbowl reports is, yeah, they may not have a ton of options for the users, not all of them. Some of them do, but you can do just about anything with them in iReports.
I know a lot of people have mentioned kind of the cost of custom reports, and I don't know if you're exclusively using Fishbowl reports for that or Fishbowl, their programmers to do it. In my experience, they are typically pretty slow to respond and they are expensive, but there are options. There are other options. I know Lance had mentioned Kendra. We've done a lot of work with Kendra on some custom reports. They're quick and they're relatively inexpensive. So our experience started with that, where we kind of were like, well, let's shop this out a little bit and see, best bid type thing. And it was a 9-day difference. So if anyone here is using Fishbowl for their reports or custom reports, it's probably worth you taking a look kind of outside as well.
That's what we're finding out. I mean, we're actually shocked that QuickBooks has better reporting than Fishbowl, which is not saying much. I mean, we're that's one thing that our feedback would be. We're in the implementation process, but we're just finding out that the report requirements, like you said, we're getting quoted 3 to 4 weeks to even do a custom report. So
yeah,
I think again, not to get the whole me, I think everybody's validating that a detractor of Fishbowl's ability to do reporting, which you can go out to a third party or learn it yourself or learn Excel. Apparently that's the two preferences to Fishbowl, SQL or Excel.
Great if you know SQL, right?
Yes.
And Jeff, I think you mentioned you're a $40 million company, right?
Oh yeah, we're 40 million.
So that reminds me of another company I worked with. It was at the $45 million stage. And I think that's about the time where people start growing out of Fishbowl. And usually it's the reports area that I've seen is the first pain point that I've noticed.
I wouldn't say it's the first. It's only the first. It's the problem is everybody on this phone. You're not going to spend $100,000-$200,000 a year on accounting software when QuickBooks does 95% what you need. It's again to us, we just realized going forward with Fishbowl, we just have to use a third party. As long as the data is there, you can manipulate. It's just the get data quickly.
Yeah.
Again, we're 40 million. Most people on this phone are not 40 million, so that's been monopolized. At the end of the day, we do distribution. It's like everybody else on the phone, we get inventory in, we have to drop ship things, move things and stuff. And so that's the key part to us for Fishbowl was order processing and inventory management.
Yeah, so to speak to our turnaround time is typically 3 to 5 business days. We have a much quicker turnaround time. There's another consulting company that does Fishbowl consulting, Terabyte Solutions. I know they do report writing. I don't think Israel Lopez does report writing anymore. He only trains people to do report writing. He got sick of doing reports. He's done thousands of them. LilyPad, Sharp Concepts, Fishbowl LilyPad, they might do report writing as well. I'm not sure though. But I know Terabyte Solutions does for sure, and we do for sure. We've never hit the point where we feel like we're overwhelmed. And I know Kendra has taught her son to do custom reports too. So anytime she's too busy, her son jumps in and does custom reports. So be happy to help you with that. I understand the need when you're as large as you are for custom report writing.
But yeah, we're only really a 20-person company, so we're not that large. It's just that the volume we do. But again, no, again,
Yeah.
that's why we're joining this call, by the way. It's just to learn. Because everybody on this phone, it doesn't matter what size you are, we'll have the same challenges.
Yeah, and there's different ways to size companies, not just by annual revenue or not just by number of employees or not just by size of warehouse. I agree. Like the other company I was comparing you to, the $45 million company, a couple years ago, I helped grow out of Fishbowl into NetSuite or SAP, and they grew to like $65 million. Yeah, I think they had more of 150 employees. So you're right. Their annual revenue isn't just the only measuring stick for sure.
Jeff, I have a quick question for you. When you say drop ship, are you acting as the reseller or as the root supplier?
Sometimes both, but usually we're reselling. What we do is we'll have supplier A has byproduct they're trying to get rid of, and we'll find a buyer, so we never take possession. So for us, it's negotiating buying the material, organizing the shipment, and delivering. That's probably 95% of our sales, all one division. Or we do have stock inventory, we're bringing in inventory and selling out inventory.
Okay. My question was going to be, how do you determine what to charge for shipping? But it sounds like you're predetermining that it's moving slow enough in the.
No, it's actually that's one of our challenges we've always had. It's because you don't get your freight bill in right away. We're a sales team. Currently, we use a manual process of deal sheets. So we use our logistic coordinators, like Marianne's on the phone. She's the manager. They know kind of the prices per delivery routes, and they get quotes. But how we did it in QuickBooks, we put estimates or fake invoices in as accruals. And we would true it up when we actually got the invoices. You would have lagging costs to our jobs. But what we're looking at is doing the overhead allocation and setting the system up front to cover freight, demurrage, fuel surcharges, and packaging. Because we know there's usually a historical range of costs for that. And you do it as a price per pound. So make it like a non-inventory item where you allocate 4 or 5 cents a pound to the order as you deliver. So that's what we're looking at doing in the system to capture the cost up front.
Okay, but basically you're throwing a dart and hoping you're coming out ahead to a degree.
Yeah, well, we're pretty accurate. Where we get hoses on international shipments, the merge is the biggest issue that always hits us. Is the merge.
Okay, all right, appreciate it.
If I'm wrong, Marianne, let me know. But that's always our fun one.
Oh, it's very true. Very true. This is the whole process of working through Fishbowl is going to be different than what we did. Like Jeff mentioned, we typically put in accruals in, and then when the bills come in, we make our adjustments and everything, and setting this up so that we have an overhead price per pound based on the streams, depending on what products are moving in what line and stuff like that is going to be different. And in my brain, it's a little bit hard for me to wrap my head around because I keep coming back to everything that for us is job costed. And so when we've budgeted so much money and then, a few months later we get an extra bills, I think it needs to go back to that job. And that's not what we're going to be doing anymore. It's going to be different with overhead cost associated. So what question comes up in my brain is when we do get extra cost and a sales order has already been fulfilled, the customer's already been invoiced, and we go and have to put a purchase order into the system, and I want to connect it to that sale so that it can be tracked with the orders a little bit, even though they're accounting for an overhead fee, right? I still want to see how it's connected to the job so I can see which jobs are really getting screwed and which ones are staying in budget when we get these extra bills in. So when you have a purchase order and you add the customer SO number to it after the order has been fulfilled, when it goes into QuickBooks, does it link it up with that original sales order in any way? Because in Fishbowl, once it's been fulfilled, the SO to PO margin report is gone.
So we've got a couple different POs you mentioned, the customer's PO, but then the SO to PO feature connects it to the PO on the Fishbowl side. And so I think you're asking when the SO is fulfilled and becomes an invoice in QuickBooks, is there any link in the QuickBooks invoice to the Fishbowl PO? Is that your question?
Yeah, if there's another added PO. So an additional PO comes in and you can put the SO number on your purchase order. Yeah. Right. And then when that bill receipt goes to QuickBooks, is it going to link up and show on a profit and loss report for just that one order.
And so on the QuickBooks side, the only link the posting transaction, such as an invoice, is going to have is to the sales order. Definitely not the purchase order that the sales order is connected to from the SO to PO feature in Fishbowl. That is definitely not a link that Fishbowl programming establishes. For sure.
And just so I understand that correctly, Marianne, you guys are issuing a maybe a second or third purchase order for like a freight overage after one of your orders has fulfilled.
Correct.
And you're wanting to tie that back to the original sales order. Yeah, that's kind of a different scenario. Instead of that just being like a variance, I guess, because you're moving to kind of an overhead structure, what sounds like an overhead structure for freight. I just wonder whether that would be better captured as a variance.
We don't do the purchase variance accounting. We track every dollar because it goes back to two things: results of the job and commission calculation. So the lagging cost, because our normal transaction is the cost of the material, and it's the freight and packaging. And so $800 freight charge can change the outlook on commission. And so that's why we always want to get all the costs back to the job and the details. Because we are looking at doing an overhead allocation now to help that, but you're right, we don't do a purchase variance over under it to say, hey, just go there. As long as we're in a reason, we're fine. And I think that's the methodology issue for us, is making it a complex process to get accuracy versus commission versus automation of the process and moving forward, and not redoing the POs.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, that is kind of a different scenario.
But we don't want to monopolize the cost. I say we're a different business model where we're basically sales guys, we're brokers in a sense. And we do some manufacturing, but it's the ability to use Fishbowl and we do make soaps and everything. We have a couple of our companies involved, but for us, it's the ability, like Marianne says, the ability to do adjustments.
I look at solutions to problems from three different angles. Either the software feature solves the problem, the software data setup or configuration settings solves the problem, or a workflow procedure and process solves the problem. And without diving into this more, I'm not sure which one you'd need to look at it from. I imagine right now you're solving the problem with just human resources and workflow procedure and hoping that perhaps a software feature or programming could solve the problem. That's where I kind of go back to, okay, how big is the problem? How much is the problem costing? How much is it worth throwing money at the problem from software to solve?
And we may be able to answer some of these questions too. We're been delayed getting our QuickBooks and Fishbowl connected so that we can do a lot of trial and error and testing environment stuff done. So we have Fishbowl set up, but we're behind on getting the QuickBooks linked to it. So hopefully that's happening in the next few days, and then we can play with it some more and figure out the answers to our questions.
Yeah, be sure to have your chart of accounts prepared and ready for a Fishbowl connection. And also something to think about if you feel like you're not sure if you want to connect to QuickBooks is to make a backup copy of your either QuickBooks Enterprise or QuickBooks Online. You can do it on either one, and call it Sandbox and then connect your live Fishbowl to the Sandbox.
That's what we're trying to do, but into our implementation, we found out they're having an issue even mapping Fishbowl into QuickBooks right now. There's an issue. We have our QuickBooks Enterprise server, remote server, and now we've been delayed several weeks because Fishbowl is saying, hey, they can't make Fishbowl talk to QuickBooks on a server. So did anybody have issues with that besides?
And we have our servers in the cloud. I think that might be part of the problem. At least I've heard that a few times. I wasn't on all the calls.
We're treating it as a service.
Okay, and you're running QuickBooks Desktop?
Correct. For the ones we're using Enterprise Desktop, correct.
And you're not running the Fishbowl server on the same machine as the QuickBooks server?
I think we are, but again, this is third party. We have third party ITs, it's third party cloud. And right now we're just having issues where they're saying, because we're treating it instead as a service. Again, we're trying to meet. I'm just saying that it's just delayed, it's a surprise delay with no one seems like this is like a new story, and that Fishbowl doesn't talk to QuickBooks, but based on using a server or a cloud server basis as a service. That's so did anybody have any struggles with that remote access, or is that made this for us separately?
So you're running Fishbowl as a service, is what you're saying, right?
Well, and or QuickBooks also too, my understanding.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it is a little bit of a tricky connection that way. It's not the standard connection, although maybe it should be. Yeah, with Nexus, and it's just getting the IP address right, and it requires a little bit of troubleshooting to get it set up. But once it's set up, I think it's reliable.
Yeah, so we had a lot of problems with the getting QuickBooks and Fishbowl to talk consistently. So we have a large server here on site, and then that gets backed up to a cloud every 10 minutes and then backed up manually, or runs an offsite one as well once a day. So when we ran it on the big server, which is what like 2 companies use it, we just had all kinds of problems because QuickBooks likes to do little things like stop working, just like stop talking, just because it feels like it. Just like, oh, I decided I don't want to come to work today, and so I'm going to make everyone's life miserable. And
I hope you weren't doing
QuickBooks
something. I
does.
kicked you out.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's always great when you need it.
Yeah.
So we have like a process where we actually export to QuickBooks. I actually just left this meeting and went and did it real quick, where I export. So we decided to give within our company, we decided to give QuickBooks and Fishbowl its own server computer. So that's the only 2 things that we run off of it. Everybody connects to that computer through the Fishbowl client. And what we found is it's easier, and I can give more people access to that one. So like basically every day at 2 o'clock Central, when we export, if someone goes over to that server computer, go into the client and go to Fishbowl admin and then export to QuickBooks during that time. And so then if QuickBooks decides it has a window open, or it's running in the background incorrectly, or it doesn't like something about that, the person on that computer can just quickly fix it, restart it, boot everybody from Fishbowl for 10 minutes, at least once, twice a week, and then get QuickBooks to talk to it and export properly. That's the only way we've been able to consistently get it to work. Anything, if you're running something on the cloud or they're not on the exact same computer, you will have all kinds of problems.
Common reasons that Fishbowl can't connect to QuickBooks is QuickBooks auto backup is turned on, QuickBooks advertising is turned on. If something like that is turned on, then Fishbowl will log in, but it won't be able to log out. And so it'll sort of just be stuck in there. So there's a couple areas that you can look at and troubleshoot. But guys, I hope you felt like this meeting today was fun and lively and helpful, and be sure to grab each other's email addresses. I see some of you shared your email addresses, so you can reach out to each other and continue your conversations. A lot of good content just in the chat area. This was awesome. We'll be sure to do this every month, and
Thank you, Lance.
I'm glad to see everyone, finding hope and help from each other. All right, if you enjoyed this webinar, be sure to click that like button, subscribe to see more webinars like this. Don't miss the next webinar next month. And if you have any questions, if you want to ask anyone anything in the group, comment below, ask a question below, and get the answer in the comments below. So yeah, I'm Lance with Brandow Consulting, inventory software expert since 2006.